took me so long to get organised that my coffee, it's not cold, but it's not warm. Hello, let's talk about books. Alright, so it's that time of year where people on YouTube and blogs, if you're still a blogger, I'm trying to still be a blogger, that people are doing their mid-year roundup of, calling it the freak out tag, mid-year roundup of what they've read, what they've enjoyed, and what they're looking forward to in the second half of the year. It's not actually halfway through the year, but I mean close enough. Probably by the time I learn how to edit this video, because I've got new software, by the time I learn how to edit this video and make it all together, it will be July. Also, thank you for sticking around if you are a subscriber to my channel, because I haven't put up a video since probably, I think, my book haul from March. I had surgery earlier in the year and I am still recovering. Everything's going well, I just get tired really fast, and with other things in my life, like, you know, earning a living, participating in capitalism, etc., filming has not been a priority. It is pouring today. It's the best cozy day for staying inside and reading, and what I should be doing is staying inside and studying, and what I will do is stay inside and play Crusader Kings 3. Alright, so let's do these questions. Question 1. They're over there, I can barely see them. Okay, question 1 says, best book you've read so far this year, which this year is 2022, is actually a non-fiction book. It's called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. I got this, like, you know, influenced to me, recommended to me from a variety of sources, a variety of people who approach this book in different ways, and I loved it, but I think it was preaching to the choir, because I agree with almost everything this guy has to say. The premise is you have approximately 4,000 weeks to live. Why are you wasting your time on bullshit? Why are you trying to optimize your life to be the most productive when that doesn't actually matter? Why are you not considering that every single decision you make is cutting off paths forever, and just being okay with that? And I was like, if I'd read this at 25, well, maybe not 25, maybe 30, I would have been like, oh, mind blown. At 40, I've settled into this way of life. But I really enjoyed it, and it's very readable. It is self-help. My daughter calls them the how to life genre, and I enjoy reading them. I enjoy productivity books. Not that I have so much going on in my life that I need optimization and productivity hacks. I just enjoy them. But I really enjoyed this one. Just say, you know what, chill. Get it from the library or something. You don't need to buy it. Best sequel you've read so far. I had to really think about this one. I've got my my list of that's everything I've read this year. So I really had to go through it and think about sequels. I've read a few sequels. Having said that, direct sequel would have to be Lord of Emperors by Guy Gavriel Kay, which is a sequel to Sailing to Sarantium, which is the story of a guy who lives in a little province of Kay's version of the Roman Empire. It's set at the time of Justinian and Theodora, and he goes from this province over to, my monitor's just turned off, and look at that. Let's put them back on and see if it evens out that face light. Hello. There we go. All the fake lighting sources today. Yeah, so it's this guy who comes from this province of the Roman Empire over to Constantinople, which in the books is called Sarantium. He's a mosaicist. He's come over to create a mosaic in the Hagia Sophia. And then the second one is what happens after Justinian and Theodora are removed from power. It was more enjoyable than I thought, which is not a diss. It is, when I first read Sailing to Sarantium, I wasn't in the headspace for it, and so I didn't read the sequel, Lord of Emperors. And this time I was really in the mood for it, and I really enjoyed it. So that was a lesson. A lesson I'm always learning is just because the book isn't the one for me right now doesn't mean it's never the one for me ever. Wow, I'm rambling. Let's continue. A new release you haven't read yet but want to. Now, so a new release actually is coming out today, and I've just looked it up on Booktopia. There's only ebook versions in Australia today. Brian McClellan in The Shadow of Lightning. I'm just going to go back to the page that had the blurb. Let me move it over closer. This epic fantasy series, this is the first in series, where magic is a finite resource and it's running out. It's behind my light now. Blah, 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 blah. Can these guys and his companions struggle against an invisible enemy to save the empire and the world? I imagine yes. But I'm going to try it. I'm going to read it. You know what? It's first thing in the morning. It is literally 9:30. And I'm already so tired. I'm tripping over my words. Okay, where'd my questions go? Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. The year. Well, I've already read it, but Notorious Sorcerer by Davinia Evans, who is my friend and sent me an arc of her book, and I read it and it was awesome. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that more later. What else is coming out this year that I want to read? I know Brandon Sanderson's releasing a book at the end of the year, the fourth in his Wax and Wane trilogy. I guess it's no longer a trilogy. And I will read that obviously because he's another author where I just instantly pre-order. That's about it. Maybe I'll put a picture here of cover as yet unreleased, but it's a follow-up to, I don't have them yet. He wrote a series called Mistborn, and then this is like a follow-up series in the same world, same magic system, just more like I've got like Wild West American vibes from it, but it's a long time since I've read them. I need to read them all before this fourth one comes out in November. Biggest disappointment. Let me see if I can find the cover for you on my Kindle. I read it on my Kindle. Kindle updated and it's just so slow now. If you have a Kindle, I'm sure you understand. They changed the menu system to reflect the phone apps, and whatever chip is running this thing, it's not strong enough. Biggest disappointment of this year was another sequel, Until the Last of Me by, pronounce this terribly I'm sure, Sylvain Nouvel. The first one was called Take Me to the Stars, or Take Us to the Stars, and this was the follow-up. Historical science fiction, I guess you'd call it. The first book was really interesting because it was set, interesting to me, it was set in World War II Germany, and then the space program in Russia, and then towards the end of the book they come to JPL, which whatever it was called before JPL, in America. I think the second one is like the sequel to a movie that just, you could skip it. So that was a big disappointment because the first one I absolutely raced through. I read it in about 2 days. But this one I would happily recommend that you don't need to read. My coffee is cold now. My biggest surprise was, where is it? I didn't get it off the shelf. So this is my biggest surprise, Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which is not a new book. It was published in 1993. My book club read it, one of my book clubs read it at the start of the pandemic, and I was like, no bro, this is a dystopia. I'm not looking at that in the pandemic. Obviously we're still in the pandemic, but I'm in a different brain space now, so I thought it was time to give it a go. And I was actually, it surprised me that it didn't surprise me. That's probably the most shocking part. Is the book starts in 2024, the 20th of July 2024, that's 2 years. This 15-year-old girl living in what they later refer to as apocalyptic America, climate crisis, economic crisis. This main character, Lauren, she's living in a walled community. It's a cul-de-sac in a suburb of Los Angeles, and they've walled it off. People who have to travel outside for work travel in packs, and they only travel at certain times of the day to avoid gang. There's no school because it's been privatized. Government's a shambles. And the whole time I was like, well, I grew up on these sorts of stories because Australian young adult books in the 90s were heavy with dystopia. But also, I can absolutely see it happening. It doesn't surprise me at all. So that was a surprise to me in that I really enjoyed it and that it was not a shock. The sequel, on the other hand, was brutal. I just finished it and it was, absolutely bleak and shocking, and it made me want to throw up at times, which I very rarely have a visceral reaction to a book like that. So, but this one seemed very cozy. But it's based on the Bible parable of the sower, which is, spread your seeds here and there and everywhere and they will stick somewhere and grow. Favourite new author, debut or new to you? Davinia Evan. So this is, as I said before, Notorious Sorcerer comes out September 13th. It'll tell me on here. September 13th. This is about a young guy from basically the lower classes. He grew up in the docks, which is like the slum working class. He wants to learn magic. He can dive between come on brain, we can do this. He can dive between basically realms to harvest alchemical goodies, sell them on to alchemists. And he has this friend who, of course, she's an upper class girl who's rebelling against those responsibilities of being presented and finding a husband and getting married and moving into that society. And so together they go into shenanigans. The way that alchemy has always been done is not going to save the city that they live in, and it's not going to save the lives of people that he needs to save. And so he just like blunt forces his way through into what looks to me to be magic. Being told that it can't be done, but because he hasn't had as much formal training in alchemy and isn't part of the alchemical society, and he just goes ahead and does it his way. I say it's a trilogy because things get sold in trilogies. I definitely know there's a second one coming, but it's definitely YA vibes because the characters are so young. The story is really fast paced. I'm not doing this justice, but I enjoyed it. I still have the retail copy on pre-order. Book that made me cry. I didn't get this off the shelf either. How do I manage to make these videos so bloody long? Oh, maybe if I had like a cogent thought rather than this tired waffling, we'd get through it faster. Anyway, I'm glad you're still with me. Book that made me cry. Hang on, I need coffee. It made me cry because it's the last in the series and I had to say goodbye to all these people that I love. Leviathan Falls by James S. A. Corey. It's the last in the Expanse series, which goes beyond the TV show. And I didn't want to say goodbye to my friends. I didn't want them to die. Is that a spoiler? It might be a spoiler because eventually everybody dies, right? Basically, if you haven't read The Expanse or seen the show, please do. I love it. Watch the show at least. But if the whole series follows the adventures of 4 people who were working together on a ship that got destroyed. They survived and shenanigans ensue, basically causes a war, and then these 4 commandeer their own fancy spaceship and become integral to interplanetary politics, basically. And I miss them a lot. So this made me cry because it was the end of an era. In terms of being a final book, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the best one in the series, but I was satisfied with the resolution. Goodbye, Rocinante. Book that made you happy. Oh, this one's water damaged. No. So it's Persuasion. I've just noticed there's a bit of water damage here on the front. So I don't even know how that would have happened. Persuasion's a gorgeous book. So it made me happy because I was reading something that always makes me happy. The quote on the back is, of course, the Persuasion quote. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. I have loved none but you. never fails to cheer me up. The most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? I can't decide between two. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which you've seen before if you watch my channel. I bought this because I loved the book. I read it on Kindle, and then it's something that I think about often, so I bought this hardcover version, which is gorgeous. Put that on the papers. That's gold. It feels amazing. It's got, let me open it up. The end paper is gorgeous. That's Addie. And then, look at that. It's the most beautiful thing. So that was an added bonus because I bought it because the book was beautiful. But it is one of the most beautiful books on my shelf now. But something I bought because of the cover is this one, Nicole Jarvis, The Lights of Prague. Look at it, Prague. I couldn't resist. Historical Prague, this one is. It's set in 1868. Don't know if it's obvious from the cover, but it's about vampires in 1868 in Prague. It's basically a love letter to the city, which I have not been to, but I've been told to take my lover to Charles Bridge and walk to Old Town. That's on my list of things to do. So I picked it up because of the cover. The story wasn't bad. He's a vampire hunter, but nobody knows. She's a vampire, but nobody knows. Shenanigans ensue. This has been recording for 34 minutes. I will cut it down, but that is an insane amount of time. Sorry, not sorry. All right, this is the final question. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, need or want? Yes, both. Okay, so I am currently reading The Mirror and the Light. That's Hilary Mantel's third in her Cromwell. Currently listening to that. So that'll get read. I'm currently reading The Witchfinder's Mark by Paul M. Clark. Yep. That is new, came out only a couple of weeks ago. Debut author. A guy who's running around like finding witches in that witch craze in England in the 17th century. But he seems to have come across actual witches. No more spoilers than that. Interestingly, I didn't know this, it's published by Brio Books, which is an imprint of Booktopia. I didn't know Booktopia was actually publishing. There you go. Down there, that's all the Sandersons. Underneath the Sandersons, I have all of the witches. So that's on my list of things to read is The Witcher. I have been really good about reading the books that I've bought, except the non-fiction ones. So I need to add some more non-fiction to the pile. My non-fiction TBR, which is a video I'll link, is I've read one of them. So I'm going to read at least one more of those this year. I have read some non-fiction, just none of the ones that was on my TBR. I just bought more, as you do. That's it. Other things I would like to read this year are more Guy Gavriel Kay. There's a whole trilogy of his that I haven't touched. I asked for books for my 40th birthday and I got some really thick romance books, and so I need to start one of them. And on my Kindle, what have I been buying? The only thing I really want to read is Matrix by Lauren Groff, Groff. This was on my to physically buy list, and then when I was buying books the other day, they didn't have the paperback in stock, so I bought something else, obviously. There's no stopping me when I'm in the mood. But then this came up as a Kindle daily deal, so I grabbed it on Kindle. So that's on my list. What a pile of waffle this has been. Thank you for sticking with me. Let me know if you were reading anything, if you think I should be adding anything to that list, if you think that I have missed something important that I said I would read and I have not. And if you like these waffly book videos, please subscribe, because I would love to tell you more about them for hours on end. Have a great day.